see so many clients come in that have made investments that they wish they didn't or they don't totally understand. And so Kathy and I feel really strongly that education is the key.
Welcome to Money Talk with Terry and Kathy, brought to you by the Spectrum Financial Group, serving individual investors and retirees. Hi, welcome back to Money Talk. I'm David Wolf. In this segment, I continue my discussions with Brian Stangel from Hanseatic Management Services, and we get to know the members of his team, who they are, and what they do. Here's my conversation with Brian. Enjoy. Brian, welcome back to the program. Great to be with you.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely. So we were talking offline just before we started rolling again, Brian, and we really feel like segment 4 of this series covered the portfolio construction piece. I think maybe moving forward, I had a question that came up, and it sort of relates to a lot of our listeners maybe have what they feel is a small amount of capital. So the question becomes, to engage Hanseatic as an institutional quality investment firm, is there any amount that's too small for you to work with in terms of bringing a new client in?
It's an excellent question. And, there's obviously we've built in economies of scale to our price schedule, but we feel very strongly that people have been either ignored or overlooked if they don't have enough money to be looked at by a lot of the institutions. And then if they do have smaller amounts, they're kind of, and we did talk about this in earlier episodes, they're kind of lumped into different things. And there's not a lot of education out there how to steer people toward low-cost index funds or things like that. Yeah. We absolutely have the infrastructure where we can take smaller amounts of money than what most people probably think we can take in. And that's a conversation by conversation decision that we make. But we encourage everybody to reach out to us because at a minimum, we're going to educate them and steer them in the right direction based on our knowledge and experience of where they can go so they're not taken advantage of or they get access to the things that they need access to. Our minimums, really, we have no bottom on the minimum. We understand that there's people that are just starting out investing, but they're going to grow, and we want to help them if we can. There's people that, maybe are further along the spectrum. And, we touched on this a little bit too in at least one of the earlier episodes. It is disappointing to me personally when somebody comes in and says, oh, this is terrible, I haven't done a good job, or, and we want to change that conversation. People that have saved, no matter where they are at in the spectrum, we want to make sure that they understand it is not their fault. They're not investment professionals, and whatever they have done is great, and they should be confident that they did anything. Even if they're starting out, the thought that they are starting to save for retirement should be commended. And we feel very strongly that we don't want to ever make anybody feel bad about coming to us, no matter what level of assets they're at, where they're at along their investing spectrum, because we want to make sure that they're growing that and doing what's in their best interest to get them to that next level. And then, of course, that maybe turns into a mutually beneficial relationship for us. So we invite anyone to reach out to us to ask us, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, is this something you can help me with? I'd say the majority of the time that answer is going to be yes.
I love that answer, and it really puts me and many of our listeners who may feel like they don't have a whole lot to work with. But first of all, the education with you would be so valuable for no other reason. And secondly, they will grow. And so it's a great opportunity to engage with Brian and the team at Hanseatic. So thank you for that. I wanted to close out our final in the series with you, Brian, at Hanseatic, with a tour or an introduction to get to know the who behind the business, the team at Hanseatic. Give us sort of a sense about who the team is. And we touched on this maybe in the initial episode when you were introducing the firm. But take us through the team, this team that meets weekly, and a little bit of bio, if you will, about how each came to join the firm and what their contribution is.
Sure, absolutely. I think I'd like to start with our Chief Investment Officer, Ed Myhouse. He has been the architect of the Hanseatic model, started in the business in the late 70s and began working on Wall Street doing capital budgeting, worked for some West Coast firms, did traditional fundamental analysis for a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and was very much a student of the market early in his career. But he quickly realized, as also having, not just an MBA, but having an engineering background, a degree in engineering,
wow,
that the variables surrounding the fundamentals in investing are very complex, extremely dynamic, and very challenging to consistently predict over longer periods of time. And you may get it right for a while, but then there's going to be when you get it wrong. And if you get it wrong by a larger magnitude, it can just destroy everything that you've done. So he started, as a student of the markets, he started thinking differently about it. And this was back in the early 80s. This was before big data. This was before data mining, before AI. He really, in my opinion, was a thought leader in investing because he stepped outside the framework of Wall Street and said, is there another way to do this? And during the 80s, he started to develop his own model. And he studied traditional technical analysis, the candlesticks and bar charts and moving average, and realized that what was available in the public domain actually involved much more subjectivity than people think it does. When they hear technical analysis, the assumption is that this is what the chart looks like, so this is going to be the outcome. And it's actually not like that at all. Traditional technical analysis involves a lot of interpretation, a lot of human subjective input to determine what that actually means. So he moved on from fundamental research. He moved on from traditional technical analysis and decided to study what stocks that did the best over long periods of time, which was the genesis of our investment philosophy. How did they behave? What characteristics did they exhibit? And that work on the model began in the 80s and really culminated. He joined our predecessor firm in 1984. And by about 1989, which leads me to our current CEO, Russ Sanderson, Russ joined the firm in 1989 to assist Ed with the further development and the actual programming of Ed's investment thesis. Ed was able to do some of the preliminary work, but we needed somebody that was much more adept with programming. All of our models were done 100% in-house at Hanseatic without any external resources.
Wow.
All of that programming was done by our current CEO, Russ, and Russ is also a member of the portfolio team. And when Russ joined the firm our predecessor firm in 1989, Ed and Russ worked very closely on that and have been since that time in enhancing and trying to incrementally improve some of those disciplines within our investment model. So I joined the firm the predecessor firm in 1993. Then the three of us decided we wanted to make a go of it within the investment management world, primarily on the institutional side at that time. And we spun out to create the registered investment advisor, today known as Hanseatic Management Services, Inc. So the three of us started that along with another colleague. And over this period of time, the investment team, the people responsible for developing and programming the model, we have all worked together that entire time. I think that's very unique to find in this industry, an investment team that's been together that long and that foresees being together a long time into the future. We have a passion for what we do and how we do it. And it's very important to us that we never forget that why we're doing what we're doing. And it's that client. We've always talked about, what's the empty chair at the table while we're discussing, the investments in our portfolio. And that's our client. We always try to have a mindset that they're there, we're there to serve them and to make sure we help them achieve their goals. One other, Amy Stangel, she's also a principal at the firm. She joined in 2012, and she oversees all compliance for the firm. And that's also another unique trait for a boutique investment manager like Hanseatic, but it goes to that institutional quality. We have an in-house professional dedicated to making sure that all the operational side and everything else that we do, both with our institutional and our individual clients, is done at the highest possible standards within the industry. And we take that a step further. Everybody's, probably heard of the SEC, but Hanseatic is also a member of the CFA Institute, and we sign off as a firm on the Professional Code of Conduct for investment professionals. That's another component that Amy's integrated processes within the firm to make sure that we can always attest to that code, that we are absolutely meeting that ethical obligation to our clients, not just the regulations in the letter of the law, but ethically taking that a step further and making sure that what we're doing is in the best interests of our clients. And that's really the core part of our team here in Albuquerque. We have, like I said, that every member is is part of the fabric of this firm, and everybody has, their own responsibilities, but we also have a lot of cross-trained responsibilities because anybody can pick up the phone and call Hanseatic, and there isn't just one person that's going to be able to help them. Anybody will be able to help them. And that's, there's pros and cons to big versus small. And we like to believe that smaller can be better if it's the right kind of smaller. And we've always kind of thought that a boutique firm that holds client service in a very high component of the business model will achieve the end goal and make sure that we first meet our clients' interests, and then as a secondary benefit, we will also meet our own interests.
So powerful to get sort of this narrative, this historical perspective on not only how you came together, but the way you interlock, the way you, it's like you're a band. I mean, everyone has their role. There's mutual respect, tremendous how should I say, diversification of talent, but yet this cross-pollination as well. What a perfect boutique to be involved with. It has to have been a very exciting time, Brian Stangel. So listen, I've enjoyed this series so much, getting to know not only you and the members of your team, but also to really get up close and under the hood with the way you approach the work that you do at Hanseatic Management Services. Thanks for being with us on all of this 5-part series we've done with Money Talk with Terry and Kathy, and I hope we get to do more of this.
Thank you, David. It's been wonderful, and we look forward to possibly doing more.
Terrific. All right, be well. Have a good week. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Money Talk with Terry and Kathy. Brought to you by the Spectrum Financial Group, serving individual investors and retirees. Find out more at sfgnm.com. Investing in securities involves risk of loss to both profit and initial investment. No investment process is free of risk, and no strategy can guarantee returns. Discuss with an investment professional the unique risk-return profile of an investment strategy. past performance is not indicative of future results. Registration with the SEC or a state licensing agency does not imply a certain level of skill or training.